So the latest tier of the Engine of Vengeance HasLab has been revealed, guys, and this one is actually the first tier of the project. But is this one enough, soulmates, and is it worth your money now? Be sure you stick around until the end, guys, because we're going to talk about what tiers we would like to see next. If you support what I do, please click subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you don't miss a single video of mine when it comes out. For all the soulmates out there who don't know who she is, Goblin Queen is Madeline Pryor, a character that was originally Scott Summers, aka Cyclops' love interest, after Jean Grey died in the comics. The two of them happen to have a baby together, and then he actually does retire from the team. But later on in the comics, when X Factor got together and they decided to bring Jean Grey back, well, you know, Scott kind of just left Madeline, and yeah, that was not the most heroic moment of his superhero career. In terms of action figures, Goblin Queen really hasn't had that many. She did have one way back during the Toy Biz days before the Marvel Legends line was even a thing, and this one was in the Mutant X line, and it was not that great of an action figure, to be honest. It was just a kind of a half-baked sculpt with some questionable points of articulation that really left a lot to be desired even in those days. And aside from this, we haven't really seen any Goblin Queen action figures until now in the HasLab Engine of Vengeance project. And my first thought when I saw the Goblin Queen was, why? Why would they do that? Because isn't this supposed to be celebrating Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary? If you're celebrating Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary, wouldn't you want to have a Ghost Rider theme with the whole thing? Because most of Ghost Rider's rogues gallery and cast of characters is already gonna have kind of a horror or scary theme to begin with, just because of the nature of the character. So he already fits in nicely with Halloween. We don't have to look across the entire Marvel universe and conjure up characters to fit the mold of this project. And it's kind of a waste of a tier because it could have been reserved for a Ghost Rider character, and now it's just so completely out of left field, I don't know what to expect next. If I'm being completely honest about it, this seems like kind of a desperation move by them, because I thought that Mephisto was going to be the first tier, and he was going to be unlocked at 12,000 backers, but then we saw the failure of the early bird special, and the project has been leaking backers really steadily despite the appearance of Mephisto, which kind of surprised me, but hey, that's the way it is. And now we got this tier debuting at 10,000 backers, just 1,000 more after the project is fully funded. I get the feeling that Hasbro had Goblin Queen planned for a later tier, but then saw what was happening and decided to throw something at the wall and see if it stuck. But did it stick? Well, not really, because it looks like the project is still leaking backers. And you know, I'm all for a Goblin Queen action figure, but she doesn't really belong here. And it doesn't seem like Hasbro really knows what the Ghost Rider fans want to see. I don't really know how they're coming to decide what they want to put in a project like this, but it doesn't really seem like they have their finger on the pulse of the fans at all on this one. I mean, let's look at this one. They had an early bird special that should have been the easiest thing in the world to pull off. It didn't have to be fully backed, it just had to be for all the people who backed the project early, and there, it would have been done. But no, they had to go and make it hard, and now they've played a stupid game, and now they're winning stupid prizes. And besides that, you got a Ghost Rider action figure that's half reused from a Longshot you've already made, and that's a bad look on an expensive HasLab project, especially on the base level. Let's face it, you could maybe get away with that on the tiers because they're extras, but on the base level, what are you thinking? And if those weren't already big enough L's, you got the Mephisto action figure that honestly just looks like a retooled Atuma to me. It might have some new sculpting here and there, but I don't know that it really matters because it doesn't look like this is the Mephisto that everyone wanted. I think that people wanted a proper classic Mephisto with, you know, the pink face and the little Green Goblin-esque pointy boots and everything else that goes along with that character. And they're not getting it here. And I guess that takes us now to this latest L, where we're looking at the Goblin Queen. And I honestly don't mind that they've used the modern costume for her, because that's fine. It's still comic book accurate. It's appeared in quite a few comic book panels, so it's right. It's just that the action figure itself looks cheap. It looks like we're just seeing another Shriek repaint, although it is worth noting that she has a belly button on this action figure, and also she's got high heels. But after you see those details, you look at everything else, and the little pieces of fabric that should be sculpted on her body are just painted on there, and it looks really flat, and it looks lifeless, and it's so boring. I mean, all you gotta do is look at some comic book panels and you see that the fabric of her boots doesn't just lay flat against her body like that. It's actually separate material. And, you know, there should be some separation between the material that forms her costume and her skin, because that makes for a more dynamic action figure. We're not talking about Hot Toys detail here. We're just talking about basic sculpting. And that means putting a handful of folds on her costume to make it look like it's lived in a little bit, because when you look at her costume in the comics, it's not just flat, smooth, and all that stuff. It looks like it's been used a little bit. It looks like, you know, her costume is folding as she moves. It's just one of those things about Marvel Legends that's really frustrating, because other companies at similar price points do it so much better than they do. And even within their own company, we see better action figures at the same price point from different brands. But now we're looking at a crowdfunding project where people are paying Hasbro to do their job, and this is what they get for their money. If we're keeping it real here, the head sculpt looks pretty good. I like that. It looks like Madeline Pryor / also Jean Grey, and that would make sense because she's supposed to be a clone. Also, her loincloth looks really good too. That's got lots of folds on it. It's flowing in the wind. The texture on that looks great. And I would like to see more of that on this action figure because it's so good. And the cape is really great too. The gradation between blue to black, that's pretty awesome. And the folds on it and the tears. Oh yeah, that's the kind of stuff we're looking for here. Those textures really elevate an action figure and make it pop more than it would if everything were just smoothed out. By the way, the skull looks pretty cool too. I really like that as an accessory. Looking at this one, it's really no wonder that the HasLab is still losing backers, because not only were we not really expecting an X-Men character, I can almost guarantee that, but, you know, an X-Men character with this kind of quality on it, yeah, that's gonna be probably why people are still backing out. I really thought this one was going to fund, guys, because, you know, it's a Marvel Legends HasLab, and the Sentinel and Galactus both did really well. But for the first time here, I'm really having my doubts. I'm not sure it's gonna make it now. I think that the Goblin Queen might be a little too much on this one. I really thought if they revealed Blackheart and the bikes, this one would have made a comeback, but I'm not sure it can come back from this. Maybe if they reveal Blackheart, maybe it can come back then, but they really need to pull out Blackheart if this one is gonna make it. Is this one worth the money, soulmates? Well, I guess it depends how big of a Ghost Rider / X-Men fan you are. If you really gotta have a Goblin Queen, then, well, here she is. I don't know if it's necessarily worth the trouble if you're just an X-Men fan who wants a Goblin Queen action figure. I would just wait it out for a couple of years until they do a single release of her, because it's better than going through the rigmarole of buying a HasLab. Am I gonna get this one, soulmates? Well, as I've been saying, probably not, but never say never. And if you'd like to see a review of this, let me know down in the comments, guys, and share this video with your friends, and we'll see what happens. Now that we've seen this Goblin Queen, what character do we want to see next? Well, I'm going to err on the side of Ghost Rider here because, you know, it's supposed to be a Ghost Rider HasLab, and I'm going to say Blackheart because this one really needs to have Blackheart if it has any chance at all now. Well, soulmates, how do you feel about this Goblin Queen tier that's just been revealed as the first tier of the Engine of Vengeance HasLab? Does this one inspire you to get the project now? Have you already backed it, or have you backed out, or are you still on the fence? I don't know, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think, and be sure you let me know what character you want to see revealed as a tier next. If you want to learn more about Robbie Reyes' head and hoodie being included with the project again, you can check out that video here, soulmates.